Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast presented to you by Music Never Stopped. Today is Monday, April 28th, and today's guest we have Chris Dyer.
What are you doing, podcast for lot?
Yeah.
Come be on a lot podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah, All Jammed Up.
This dude's doing a podcast. If you want to be on some podcast, come give an interview.
Hell yeah.
All
Good morning, fools. Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast and happy Monday. I'm your host, Clint Dotson, and we're mixing it up a little bit today. We have an artist on the podcast, Chris Dyer. Before I started this podcast, I was living in St. Pete, Florida, Gulfport specifically, for all my real ones who know. And Chris Dyer's kind of had a bunch of art around the city. And then as I've kind of gotten into different kinds of music, tipper and stuff like that, I've seen him kind of pop up a lot of different places, and his art's really cool. It's really trippy, really psychedelic. And I was always curious to kind of get to know a little bit more about him and kind of his inspiration behind his art. So when I was in Florida last week, I thought it would be a good opportunity to try to interview him, and I kind of anticipated that it wouldn't happen, but it did happen, and it happened a lot easier than I thought it was going to, and I thought it was a really fun interview. It was, like I said, a little different, not super music-based, but again, this podcast isn't just about music. It's kind of about the whole culture that goes along with, jam bands and all of that, and it's just so much more than just music. So any opportunity that I can get to interview somebody like Chris Dyer or somebody else in a different sector of the scene, I'm going to do it, and I think that's what makes it so special. So a really fun interview for me. Let's get right into it. Chris Dyer.
Hey, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Alrighty, guys. We are here with Chris Dyer.
Hello.
Psychedelic artist? What would you kind of classify yourself as?
I'm a painter mostly.
Okay.
As for flavor, let's say that I mixed visionary, psychedelic, surreal, spiritual themes, but done in a street, kind of like, street art approach. Because I paint in the streets, I'm a skateboarder. So yeah, urban mixed with spiritual.
Nice. And I want to get into like all your inspirations and kind of what kind of motivated you to get to that point. But I want to rewind and kind of start. You're from Peru, right?
I grew up there, yeah.
Okay, so you grew up there, and how long were you there for?
I was in Peru from 4 years old to 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so that was the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are kind of some formative years in your life. Was like skating and art kind of at the root of you as a teenager then?
Yeah, that's a long period of time, so I did lots of things at different points. But yeah, definitely 4 years old, you're just barely trying to understand what reality is. And then that going into 17, by 17, you formed your perception of reality. So I always consider myself Peruvian at the root, because that's what taught me what reality was. And then I'm thrown into Canada, which was the next country I lived in, and that was totally different, and had to adjust and be a little bit less aggressive and so on.
Okay. What do you mean, like, living in Peru and you were 15, 16, 17, kind of aggressive is the word you used. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by, like, aggressive at those years?
Okay, so Peru, to start with, is a poor country.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very male-centric country.
Okay.
I don't want to be like, oh, the patriarchy. No, it's like men rule Peru.
Yeah.
And it's very macho. And it's in the culture of Latinos in general. It's what's, taught to every Peruvian boy. And I went to an all-boys school, so I didn't really meet any girls, so I moved to Canada. And just everybody's just kind of like on this fight. Even when you're like, I went to like a good school with people of good resources, but they're also being all tough. And it's almost like an energy fight always,
okay,
of who's gonna crush who to be the king of whatever. So like as a sensitive artsy kid, I just had to build myself tough and build all these like defense mechanisms and armors, and I was in a street gang, and then there's the whole fact that I was like light skinned in a country that it's mostly brown skin.
Okay.
And that meant I was liked by some, hated by others.
Okay.
As anywhere else. You
Yeah.
know? And vice versa. Like all the people find a reason to separate because of melatonin levels on their body, and that's also happening in Peru. And I stand out there as a minority, and meaning, oh, there's a guy to rob, so you get robbed a lot. And so that also once again shapes my perception of reality, where I gotta be defensive even from people walking down the street, and be careful I'm not in the wrong part of town. And yeah, and then I grew up with surfers and skaters, and that's a fun creative practice, but also there's the ego of like, ooh, how cool are you, or who's the best one, and
Who's a poser, who's not.
Yeah, like we're being punks, and everything's just so tough, everywhere around the world being tough is cool, and being putting your guard down is almost like lame, or
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a process, but yeah, that's what I meant by like being in a more aggressive culture. I'll go back to Peru, and I can, some people will be very friendly, but you also got to make sure that they're not got a second intention.
Your guard has got to be up.
Right.
Okay.
If they want to rob you like peacefully or not.
So then when you moved to Canada, and was that like a harder adjustment for you, or was it kind of easier not having to be so tough and kind of being able to show more love?
Showing up to Canada at age 17 in 1996, and then going to college, I didn't make friends for like 5 months because I couldn't relate to the people there. Like, I didn't know how to impress them. I was like, I'm in a street gang. No one cares. They think that's weird. I'm a surfer. There's no surfing in Ottawa, Canada. So it's just kind of like, where's the people like me? How do I connect? I finally met one dude in my class because I figured out he liked metal. He might have had a metal tattoo. And it's like, oh, I like metal. And then it's like, oh, well, I just went to Pantera last week. What? And then we started talking. He's like, you're from Peru. Like, that's such a weird country. Like, what's going on here? And then, like, and then eventually I met other rambunctious people in my college, where all the drinkers and the people who like breaking stuff and skaters.
Yeah.
And then I'd hang out with them, and I was like, not the king of the crew, but I was so wild. I would go to a bar and start breaking everything, like the glasses of the bar, and get the fire extinguisher out of the wall and start spraying everybody. And people were like, that guy is so hardcore. Like, so they thought it was hilarious, but they're like, but don't invite him. He'll break your house. He'll get in a fist fight, until they got used to me. And then they got on board with my kind of like vibes. And it's like, okay, let's grab some crowbars and start breaking some bus shelters, or, and I was also like always recording everything. I would always bring a video camera and make all these video montages that were half skateboarding and half destroying Ottawa, Canada. Very inspired by CKY. Do you know CKY?
Yeah.
Eventually that became
Like Viva La Bam.
Sure, Bam Margera, but also his main show on MTV was fucking Jackass.
Jackass, yeah.
Yeah, but this is like years before Jackass. It was just skateboard vibes and video. And
Camp Kill Yourself, right?
Camp Kill Yourself, and that for us was our fucking Bible. We'd see it over and over again, and be like, okay, how can we like break more shit?
Yeah.
So that's what I was up to for years, and I was making skate videos in that fashion. Terrible, terrible skateboarding, but amazing breaking as shit.
And this was when you first moved to Canada?
Yes.
And were you doing art yet?
Yes, I was always making art.
Always
all
making
the
art.
chapters of my life, from 3 years old to when I moved to Canada. So like when I moved to Canada, I'm doing skateboard graphics, very heavy metal punk shit, and filming, and doing graphics for it, and doing comics for the newspaper. And at the time, I wanted to be an animator that had his own show, but I wasn't good enough to get into animation schools because my anatomy and realism is not like what they wanted. But I was like, I don't want to animate realism. I want to animate my weird characters and cartoons. So that didn't work out, but I ended up doing fine art and anyways.
So going from that art being during an aggressive time of your life, and you wanting to do this like psychedelic, these funny characters, was psychedelics a part of that kind of shift in your art?
I did shift into a positive version of myself eventually. That took some years, and I wouldn't say psychedelics did it because
Okay.
I was doing psychedelics on my negative stage,
Okay.
quote unquote negative. So we were drinking beers and smoking weeds as a proper, gangster rapist was telling us that day in our cars, and we're just like puffing man. And then like sometimes for like Canada, they would do mushrooms and walk around tripping out in the middle of all the normies, and then we'd climb a rooftop and do all these like dangerous things, or climb a mountain on shrooms. So we were doing a lot of activities also on shrooms. I remember going to Green Day and Foo Fighters, 1998, downtown Ottawa, like fucked up on mushrooms, but also drunk and high. So psychedelics didn't make me awaken into some spiritual reality. There were parts of the trip where you're like, you're doing it for the 20th time, and it's the end of the night, and you're like, what is reality? And we're all one? What is this? So there's like, it's seeping in, but it's not like, I'm gonna be good now.
Yeah.
What made me kind of like go to the good side was tree planting.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a tree planter for 3 seasons in this is 2001. Mm-hmm. So tree planting is a job that Canadians do where you go to the north of Canada where there's no more civilization, and all the trees they've taken out, you replant those lands. And I was in a big depression. I was drinking a lot. I was a fucking drunken asshole. I was a destruction monster of my crew, as I was telling you. And that just didn't feel like that was the best version of myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go away to new people and see if I can reinvent myself. So I went tree planting. I changed my name to Carlos Sanchez for a couple of years. There's no social media those days, so you can like, be whoever you want, and without someone be like, hey, your social media says this and that, or you could just reinvent yourself. And that's where I met the hippies. The hippies were tree planters, and they had different philosophies than say the metalheads or punks I was hanging out with. And it just kind of like inspired me to like, let's travel the world. Let's be good in nature.
Yeah.
Let's, be environmental and eat healthy and save the planet. And I'm like, oh man, this sounds like it has so much more purpose than let's go and fucking destroy the world. So I was, I was already starting to grow dreadlocks, more from like a Rage Against the Machine, Sac La Rocha kind of vibe, but that it attracted other dreadheads to me. So a lot of Rastas and hippies were coming to me like, hey, fellow dreadhead, let's talk. And then I'd get influenced in a good way.
Was that kind of transition to being like destructive to building positivity? Was it kind of a quick like, oh shit, I've been doing this wrong? Or did it kind of take time to develop that feeling?
So before tree planting, I was crashing on the whole, like having like 3 or 4 years of being a Canadian arrival destruction monster, and then you're like, ugh. I always knew I had something special in me, that I'm here to do something like potent, and destroying shit and skate videos was a phase, but then you're like, okay, now what? Is this gonna be my life? So tree planting, I could erase myself, and no one knew me, so no one's going to be like, oh, Chris Dyer, be crazy now, and satisfy our lust for something crazy tonight. So I just try to be more calm. I was still bringing my bullshit, and I was learning what it was to be positive and good, but I was always making mad mistakes, and then the ego gets in. It's like, I'm positive now, and that means I'm better than others, and it takes years to clean out the bullshit, still working at it decades later. But at least there was the intention of like, I want to use my art for making the world a better place. I want to paint things that inspire people to save the planet. That just seems so much more worth my effort. So I started aligning with that direction and moving to it.
How important and how difficult do you think it is to be doing art with that kind of intention?
It was important to me.
Yeah.
Each person's got their own journey. So I can't say what others should do.
Okay.
But to me, my personal belief is that we're love. We express into the world as a physical that gives you the option of the opposite of love. And then I believe the video game is about getting back to love, both for yourself and for others, creativity, beauty, sharing, expansive vibrations. So I believe we're all, I don't want to say should, but the aim of the game we're playing right now is to go back to God, love, oneness, the positive sides. But we get the chance to dive into the darkness for a year, for a lifetime, for 10 lifetimes, whatever it takes to learn what it was. And then in contrast of that, we go back to the path, going back to who we originally were. God, love, expansive.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I've told you that I just recently started this podcast, only in January. So to me, this is my form of art. I don't, I can't draw like you can. I can't make music like others can. But I'm able to, I think I'm a good people person. So this is my form of art, and I'm trying to figure out how to be more intentional with it. So that's kind of why I asked that question. It's something like you said, there's no one answer to it. So something I'm still trying to figure out with myself. So that's why I ask. But so after Canada, how long were you in Canada for?
When I arrived in the 96, and I lived there till I moved out late 2021.
Okay, so you were there for a while.
I'm pretty much Canadian.
Okay.
I am Canadian. I was born in Ottawa, but I don't care where you're born, But I did live in Canada for decades, and
that's where you identify most with, you would say?
Who cares? I don't. I'm not a country. I'm not a patriot. I'm not but cultures influence me, and I can appreciate it and love the cultural corporation of Canada and give it my love without it owning my identity.
Okay. Yeah.
Identity is a weird thing because identity is kind of like, oh, I resonate with this, but then some people make it so firm that it becomes like a box, and your soul is so much bigger than these parameters we assign to it. Like, I'm more than just like a male, or I'm quote unquote light skinned, or from Peru or Canada. Like, you're an eternal soul that has those parameters in your avatar complex, but you're past that. You can't let it limit you. So I give my love to it, but I also don't let that be the essence of me.
Okay, understood. So why'd you choose here to move to?
Oh, St. Pete. So when I left Canada, it was very spontaneous. I was not planning to move into the States. I always have worked in the States for decades, but I never wanted to live there because it just seemed too intense, too chaotic. Canada is like the chill version of the States. It's cheaper, it's cool, etc. I was fine there till COVID. Once COVID started happening and the governments got really unfriendly towards the population that was not in belief of their specific medicament, the vax. I don't know how much I can talk about that in your
You can
show.
talk about it all you want.
Yeah, because some words trigger censorship and blah blah blah. But basically, I didn't want to get vaxxed. I've been observing the government and corporations for decades. So when that came through, and be like, hell no, that's got red flags all over the place. If they do what they always do, this is all about money. They say fuck all your health. And, and I was like, thank you very much. I'm passing on your decision. But passing on a decision, they bunched me up to the other side, the bad ones, the evil, racist, misogynistic, bad people that won't do this thing that you were forcing you to. That's like, fuck. I got really pissed off at my Prime Minister Trudeau and my country because I pay so many taxes. I go to the States, I do all this money, I bring money to my country, I pay you my taxes, I keep my nose clean, I do all the things you want, I play with your system, and here I'm respectfully bowing out from trying this new medical procedure that don't think has enough testing, and now I'm an asshole?
Yeah.
I was so pissed off. They really made me feel bad. It was stressful for me and my friends who didn't buy it, till it got to the point where I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I owned a really nice apartment in front of very close to a really nice park in Montreal. I had a really nice setup and had friendships, and I love Montreal. Montreal's the coolest city in the world to me. But I was not gonna do what didn't feel right. So I just jumped to the States. I moved to Denver. I have a clothing brand called Positive Creations, and in Denver I had a whole 3-story house with workers and my brand manager and a printing room and a storage, and it was like a whole Positive Creations Chris Dyer house. I was like, hey guys, can I just move in with you guys?
Yeah, can I live in my house?
Yeah, can I move in the house so that my brand pays for? And it's like, sure, you can have the basement room. So it was like the worst room of the house in a basement, small room with a little window. But I was like, as long as I don't have to do it, let me be here. Bought a little small cheap bed, and I only arrived with 2 suitcases. And what I had in those 2 suitcases, that's what I had for the whole year, plus whatever I bought there, of course. And I had left everything behind and kind of just stored in a room, rented my apartment to my dealer. And then I was like, okay, I got to figure out where to live in the States.
Yeah.
And Denver is not the place for me. Denver is cool and all, but I don't live in a place because of cool points. I want to feel happy, and that place was not making me happy. It's too much. Too much of too much.
Yeah.
no bad vibes. And I love visiting, and there's a great scene there, but I don't want to live there. You know, it's too much. So I don't want to make the story too long, but I looked at a lot of different locations, including Puerto Rico and Tennessee. And then I was like, wow, I've always loved Florida. I've been coming to Florida since I was a kid. Ever since I was in Peru, I've come to Disney many times. And whenever you go to Florida, it's like, oh, that sunny place with the palm trees and the beaches and the toys and and I went to Christmas with a cousin who lives in Tampa, a Peruvian cousin, and it's like, show me around. And I was like, I could live here. This was cool. I didn't know anybody here.
Yeah.
And then I just made my mind. I looked at houses on Zillow all year in Denver, and I told my cousin, who was a realtor, show me all these houses that I found on Zillow. And one of them was his house here on the first day. It's like that weird house from 1910.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, and I put my offer, got it a month later, and I've been living here for the last 2 years and a half. It's been awesome. I've been building it up and turning it into a little art paradise, and St. Pete is a lovely place.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with my decision. I felt confident about following my intuition, even though I didn't know anybody here.
I mean, I did the similar thing. I moved to Tampa in 2020. Similar thing, COVID happened. And I was living in Virginia in like a very liberal area and like couldn't really go outside. Had to have the vaccine to do stuff, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be here. So I moved to Tampa. I lived there for 3 years, and then like I told you, I lived not even 2 minutes away from here on 49th Street, across from the smoke shop where you have the mural there.
In Tampa?
No, here, 49th Street, right over there.
Okay, so in St. Pete.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
lived right over there in Gulfport, and then we just decided to move. I'd been in Florida for a while. She lived her whole life here. So we're really big into like the jam band scene. So like, let's go check out Asheville. So that's why we ended up there. But you definitely chose a great place, and it seems like Gulfport, St. Pete has really accepted you because your work's everywhere.
I'm working at it.
Yeah.
Today I had a meeting with the Drunken Taco. Do you guys know that place?
Yeah.
I've been working at them. I eat there every week, and I've been talking to the waitresses. It's like, hey, I want that wall. I was like, well, we got to talk to the owner. I finally got to the owner. It's like, hey, I want that wall. It's like, okay. And I finally had my meeting today and be like, I want that wall. And he's like, okay, you can paint the wall. What do you want? It's like, at least this. I'll give you a deal. But yeah, I want that wall. And smoke shops, same thing. I just went there and I told the guy who was owning it, I want that wall. And he didn't even look at my portfolio. He's like, you want to paint that wall? Paint it. And I paint something really sick, and people were hitting up his Instagram like, what? You got Chris Dyer painting your smoke show? How do you pull that off? And he's like, this guy's important? What's his deal? And then he got really excited, but then he was funny. I think he ate shrooms every day, and he would connect with this complex consciousness called CERN. So basically, he's doing mushrooms and then connecting with a collective mind hive who guided him to St. Pete to buy that smoke shop. And he was really happy that I'm a psychedelic person painting for him out of nowhere, but very synchronistic for him. But he just couldn't open his shop, so eventually it went down. And
there's a new owner now, right?
Now there's a new owner, and I went to him and be like, don't erase the mural. Let me have the other wall. And anyways, this story's getting too long, but I had to paint his cousin's spot in Bradenton for cheap. just to get my foot in the door. I was like, I want that wall.
Yeah.
You know, and I eventually painted it, and now I'm bugging the gym down there. I've been bugging Hooking Ain't Easy. I need to go to the Jamaican market and be like, I like your wall too. The thing is, like, none of these people got budget, so I got to do it as a pro bono situation on my days off between actually working and paying my bills. But I want my art in my own neighborhood of, this is Twin Brooks, I think. But Gulfport, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that, like, it sounds like when you made that move from Canada, you wanted to make a move where a place that you, like, you had a connection, you craved that connection. Do you feel that here?
Yeah, I've set roots here. My connection is to the heart of the earth, which is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to go down there to the center. But I like it when there's a lot of nature, because when everything's covered in cement, I guess like you got to break through the cement to get to the heart of the planet. But here, the heart of the planet grows as this 100-year-old tree that has its own consciousness and smile and holds space for me, both on top and below in its roots. So, and to have my partner come out and plant her plants and do her flowers and her meadows and her pollinators, and it's like she's got a full canvas for her to express herself. We're about to do the chicken coop on the other side of this, and we did this fence. We've been building it up, and then I bring my artist friends, and they contribute with the art, and then we built a mini ramp, so I got my skate jams to keep my skater part alive, and it's being awesome. It's just a place where, like, people just let each other be. Like, nobody's coming and be like, Chris Dyer here, we'll hook you up with everything. Everybody's been very welcoming and helpful, but everybody's just doing their thing.
Yeah.
And they let you do your thing. I like that. And I'll call people in when I need it, and other times I like to be left alone because I'm also overwhelmed with the amount of things I got to do.
Gotcha. So tell me, too, to me, living in Gulfport, my favorite thing about living in Gulfport was the Blueberry Patch.
Okay.
I told you I'm a big jam band head, specifically Deadhead. They get Uncle John's band over there. You get, what's the other? Dead Set over there. You get those guys over there. And I know that you recently just did a mural for the Blueberry Patch. What's that place like mean to you? How special is that place to you?
Yeah, so I always heard about the Blueberry Patch. There's different cool things in St. Pete, and different people will tell you, like, oh, the Blueberry, and then I went and checked it out and be like, wow, this place is like hella hippie, but like old school hippie.
It's like a mini festival almost.
Yeah, but burner, but older kind of hippies, so it's kind of like if I was the curator, I would clean up a couple things here and there, but like the madness of it is almost part of the fun of it, because you're like, what the fuck happened here? And it's got all this, like, it's just made out of garbage pretty much, so it's really cool and original. And I don't party out too much. I don't go out. I'll check out, like, my friends Future Joy. They live here. We become friends. They play there.
They're from here? Future Joy?
Emily, she's from, I think they're both from Denver, actually.
Okay.
They're both from Denver, and they kind of got tired of the Denver scene, or like they didn't want to live there anymore during COVID, and they moved here where they could keep on touring on their RV. And now they live here. They got a beautiful house in like a beachy area, but they're always touring.
That's the rodeo song, right? They do rodeo is that Future Joy?
I'm not sure.
Future Bird. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Future Joy is a couple. It's a lady who sings and a dude who plays the saxophone.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really cool, and you will see them at all the festivals. They got a really good vibe, and they're really nice people, and we've connected really nice. We go out on double dates together.
Yeah.
We got this plan to go to Busch Gardens together soon enough, but they're always touring, so it's hard to like nail them down. But anyways, I've seen them at the Blueberry Patch, and basically, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm a diehard Blueberry Patch dude. I'm like, I see you. Your community space. They own the land. They're old school hippies. The guy who owned it was a hippie burner, and he bought the land, and people are taking, and there's volunteers. And so I, through friends, actually through Future Joy, I finally got to talk to him and be like, hey, I'll come and do you a mural pro bono. Like, if you can cover my paints, that's always helpful. And they did. And it took me like 2-3 days to do a giant robot by the stage. I was like, but give me a good spot, I want people to look at the stage. I'm behind a big Chris Dyer mural, so it gets enjoyed. So it worked out good. It makes me happy to donate my time and integrate to my local neighborhood. Yeah, and community, of course.
Cool. So the local art, you kind of explained how you get those gigs and how cool that is to you. But I've been seeing that you've been doing murals, and I saw you just did one in Albany, right?
Yes.
And you did one in Hungary as well.
Yes.
How do you get those gigs? Like, is someone in Hungary reaching out to you and like, hey, come do this? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, people ask me. I painted murals around the world. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool. I guess, I mean, that's your job. That's what you do. But to see that, like, I knew who you were as the Gulfport local guy doing art. I didn't realize that you were doing art all around the world. So that's pretty special to me to think that.
Yeah, no, I've been doing this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I've been part of I don't know. I've been doing my art all my life, as I was telling you. I just came out with a book last year, so in the book I record like all the countries I've been to, and like sometimes I get invited to a country to paint. A lot of these are festivals. So say like I went to Hungary for Osora Festival at Psytrance. So I'm there like painting, and it's like these European festivals are serious. It's like 2 weeks long. The week before the festival itself is a whole week of Psytrance nonstop. Then you go to Portugal, you paint for Boom Festival. You go to Australia, you paint for Rainbow Serpent and Earth Frequency. You go to Mexico, you paint for Ometeotl and other festivals. And then I'll be like, oh, there's an abandoned ashram in India. Let's go to India and paint for fun. But then like a million tourists take pictures of it, like you know, all year on for years to come. Or I don't know. Sometimes it's like me financing it because I want to paint a place. Sometimes it's just like clients being like, hey, I love your art. Come to this country. Mm-hmm. Yes, come to Romania, which I had no clue what's the deal with Romania. And I didn't have time to like really investigate it till I was there and then, you know, learn about it. And it was really lovely. And people always help you along the way. Like my brother's like, oh, I know some graffiti cats in Romania. So he put me in contact, and then they took me to some abandoned Soviet Union, burnt out like industrial stuff to paint just walls in abandonment. And that's so yummy sometimes, you know?
It's so yummy.
Yeah.
Where in Portugal were you at?
So you land in Lisbon,
yep.
And I was doing my travel show back then, so I would film all of Lisbon and show the vibes and paint murals with the local people. Boom Boom Festival itself, I can't tell you where it is because it's somewhere in the middle of nature, like many festivals.
Okay.
But after that, I was hanging out with Jonathan Salter. We went to Sintra, I think, where there was these like really interesting castles built at the beginning of the 19th century by these esoteric, mystical people that were combining all the religions into one. They were creating these really weird architecture.
That's where my whole family's from. So I've been to Portugal a bunch, and I've been to the castles and all that.
Yeah,
so
did I say that Sintra was that spot with the weird esoteric...
I don't know if that's what it is. I know there's like Algarve. I haven't been
Have you seen a picture where it's like a circular stairs going down, and if you see it from the top, it's almost like you go looking down at the Tower of Pisa? Anyways, I'll show you pictures later. It's in my book. But yeah, no, Portugal was dope. Yeah, that year, that was 2016. I just got divorced. And one of the reasons of my divorce was that I wanted to travel the world, but she was always too sick. And, you know, to come with me. And she didn't want me to travel. She wanted me to stay home and take care of her. And that didn't work out. It wasn't my purpose. So eventually, you know, we divorced, and she found a partner who would take care of her, and I went and I flew all over, including Portugal. That year I went to Mexico, I went to Nepal, I went to Chile, I went to the Easter Islands, I went to Norway, I went to Bali. I just went all over.
Out of all the places that you've been, I believe if I read correctly, you've been to 44 different countries?
I think I'm at 46 by now.
46? Okay. Do you have one country that kind of sticks out to you, just like, wow, this place is like nothing I'd ever seen, nothing I could have ever imagined?
They all got that. Some more than others. Like, it'd be so boring for me to be like, yeah, Bali's dope. But Bali's got some really cool art. Like the sculptures, the architecture, the nature, wood carvings, paintings, flowers everywhere you go, just like as garbage. Like you'll see a whole garbage can, and it will be all flowers because every morning everybody's getting their flowers and doing their spiritual chants to their favorite deities, which are very prevalent there. Would I move to Bali? Probably not. I don't know. There's just lots of beauty in the world. I love Southeast Asia in general.
Yeah.
But then like Egypt's amazing, and Peru obviously is my country, and I know how to travel it so well.
Yeah.
Where I know all the spots and the hotels and restaurants and ruins, and you know, yeah. I don't know. There's just so much beauty in this world. If anything, I'm not thinking of where I've been, which it should maybe that's what I should do. I'm thinking of like.
What's next?
When am I going to get to Turkey or Japan? I haven't been there.
Japan is one I think that would be really cool to go to Japan.
Right, but I rarely go to a country if I don't have some degree of artistic opportunity or somebody holding space for me. If I'm just showing up as a tourist and hoping to find the wall, that's too not risky, but like I'd rather have a better setup where somebody who appreciates me like, Chris Dyer, let me hook you up with a really good Japan trip, and maybe even you can meet some fans or paint a wall or do some kind of stunt where it's like a proper exchange.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So as far as the art goes, like, a lot of your work is done through spray painting, right?
Yeah, the murals.
The murals, okay.
Yeah.
So then what other mediums do you like to do when you're doing, like, do you just do painting? Do you ever do drawing? Like, how does that...
My canvas work is usually with acrylic.
Okay.
And I'd say my canvas work takes me a lot longer than a mural. Like, this mural here took me 2 days. If I was to paint that with brush, probably like, I don't know, like a week plus to get that. So when I'm doing a canvas, actually going smaller takes longer because you gotta kind of like keep your precision and there's more and like spray paint just like shoots color everywhere and you gotta just catch it and hope for the best.
When you paint something like this, do you like what's the process of it? Do you draw it first and then like, this is what I'm like, I have this drawn, now I'm going to take it here and I'm going to fill the colors in? Or is it you're just like, I think I know what I'm going to do, and you just do it? Like, how's that process look like for you?
I will sketch, and my sketches are just a bunch of squiggly lines, but they kind of conduct the general flow of the energy in a direction. And then when I sketch onto the wall, I'll start doing the line work, and then I'll carve it a little bit nicer, listening to the wall too, because walls got different shapes, got different ridges. You're like, oh man, I should do this. You accommodate things. Sometimes I change the mural 100% from what it was in the sketch, and it looks like nothing like the sketch, but that's what happened. And then when it comes to colors, I'm just listening to what should go where by intuition, by it's kind of like a, I don't know how to explain it. Like one thing leads to the next, that leads to the next. But I try to distribute lots of rainbow colors everywhere. If anything, my challenge is to like break from what already works from me to do something that doesn't work for me. So say like the job I did in Albany, that's the first mural I've done with brushes in a long time. And because I had to go and buy some latex paint at Home Depot, I made sure to order some colors that were really outside of my usual range. So when I painted that mural, it looked very different color-wise because I was setting myself up with already like, you know, a base that was not my usual. So yeah, anyways, lots of technical strategy talk here, but it's kind of like you know, once again, I'm so visual. Here's where I need my hands for things. So like I'm capturing the energy with a sketch, and then you put it onto the wall, and then you're like kind of like molding it a little bit tighter, and then you're like solidifying it with color, and then you're tightening it up with the black line, and then you're messing it up again a little with the texture, but then you clean it again, and then a shadow to push things around. It's just got all these steps, and you know, and then it ends up being whatever it comes out, and I'm like, oh cool, that worked out. Or
yes, so I've been trying to get into like being more expressive with myself, like drawing, or I've been starting to learn play guitar. But whenever I pick up a pencil and a paper, I have like a hard time like getting started. Like thinking of what to draw with, or like I'll make a few lines and I'd be like, that sucks, and I just give up. What do you think, like, how would you tell someone who's trying to get started drawing, like, what would you tell, what advice would you give them to get to a good finished drawing?
Well, that's a big.
I know that's a
big
loaded
jump.
question.
You're just like, how do I get started, or how do I get to?
So
the
how do I
end?
get started? How do I get started? Let's say that.
You got a blank page on your sketchbook there?
Yeah.
Okay. Put the pen to the paper.
Okay.
And just start doing just little light circles. Just like kind of just go like let your hand just like kind of like just flow the energy. Just like you're moving a pen. Just like and then like move it around and maybe let it go down and then doing direction. Imagine your hands a swan on a lake and it's like doing a cut. Like as a skater, I'd be like, oh, now do a cutback. Or a surfer, like now do a roller or maybe do a floater and now crash down. So do all that with your pen and then you find all this line work and then you look at it being like, oh, this looks like a mess. Or you could be like, ooh, I like how this bunched up here and then it flowed here and created a level there. And that's creating composition in a way.
I feel like the one time I've drawn something that I've liked, I just kind of did lines and then I was like, I actually like how those two lines work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people call that automatic drawing. Have you ever heard automatic writing?
Mm-mm.
So automatic writing is when we open ourselves to the universe and you let whatever comes into your mind write. It's like, hey, I'm writing something now. I don't know what I'm writing. What the fuck am I writing? Whoa, but I don't know. I see a leaf on the ground. What does that mean? Oh, it creates a shadow. The blue turned into purple in the shadow. And then like you're having this inner conversation. You're just spitting out random shit. But in that random shit, sometimes there's like a couple sentences that's like, that was quite profound, and that's just because I let my mind vomit a bunch of shit, and there's a couple nuggets in the mix. So a good sketching session could have a bunch of squiggly bullshit, but then a couple of nice things. You're like, ooh, I like how that little part. So then you rescue that.
Okay.
And you take it to the next sketch, and then you flesh it out, and you build it up. And if you're used to always like flowing with shapes, as I do, you can recognize quicker what's a good composition or not. Once you got a good composition, then from there you start. It's like you put on your glasses. Do you use reading glasses or any kind of glasses? No. Okay, so imagine what I just described with all these squiggly lines. It's almost like looking at reality without your glasses if you're half blind. And then when you put on the glasses, everything sharpens up. So the next stage of the drawing is to sharpen it up.
Okay.
You know, maybe you want, like if you did it with pencil, you grab your eraser and you start erasing certain parts and you highlight the good parts, and then you're almost like sculpting with lines. And then through that, you're like, you know, if you're exploring and you don't know what you're doing and you're like, oh, this kind of looks cool, I wonder what it is. And you keep on pulling the thread with a painting. That's one way to go about it. The other way is like, I want to paint my unhappiness. And then you got to have an inner conversation of like, okay, what does that mean, unhappiness?
Like,
How do I symbolize unhappiness? Oh, maybe it comes with the color blue. Maybe it's a face with a sad face. Or maybe that's too dumbing it down. Maybe let's use a dagger in a heart. Like, you will know how to communicate with yourself and thus your audience if there's an audience, but there doesn't have to be an audience. The art's for you. That's the only thing that matters. If there's an audience, cool. And if they like it, amazing. But the audience is secondary, though I always appreciate if my audience likes my art, but like really I'm not doing a painting being like, oh, well, but my audience, like, I know what to do if I want to capture an audience.
Yeah.
I'll give him some cheesy pop stuff that will sell me lots of prints and make me money. But then I'm just lying.
Yeah.
You know? Then I was like, well, I don't really care about it. I love pop culture, but I don't want to do art about I want to go and buy toys for that, and then I'll do a painting and invent my own pop culture.
Yeah.
I want to create my own characters. I want to bring my own contribution to the cultural exchange of the human race. Anyways, I'm just yapping your head off again.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love that. So your art is very, I think, psychedelic. Now, do you still use a lot of psychedelics to help you get to your art, or do you feel as though your consciousness is like so expanded already that you don't really need as much psychedelics as maybe you did in the past, or do you kind of already have this idea of what you want out of your art?
I don't like the idea that a psychedelic artist needs to do psychedelics in order to get to a painting. I think we are psychedelic. So what does psychedelic mean? Psychedelic means you're taking an entheogen that takes you into a spiritual version of yourself. That version of yourself could be really wild and colorful and trippy, or it could be like a being made out of light that's just meditating in the middle of heaven. It could express as so many things. The idea of like what is psychedelic and what it's not. It's almost like to me, I think it's kind of dumb to be like, oh, psychedelic is just a bunch of colors. It's like, okay, that's like your 5-year-old version of that, but like, a psychedelic could be like this little splotter in the blue if you know how to read it, if you know how to listen to reality. So, am I psychedelic? Do I need psychedelics to do it? There was many years I didn't do any entheogen at all, and I was doing some of my trippiest stuff that people are all telling me like, oh my God, like how much DMT are you doing? And I was like, oh, I did it once in 2004 just out of curiosity. Now I'm a big ayahuasca person, but I'm not going to ayahuasca being like, hey, I need a new painting, like, and I don't have enough imagination or way to describe it. Can you give me something? Because I'm in such lack. If that's the situation, I'm coming to ayahuasca, she'll probably be like, let's address this whole lack vibe first before you come to me asking for paintings. That's like a side product, that cool, like you're good. You will get your paintings, but come to me to heal your soul. And this whole intention of getting the next painting, where does that come from? Is that your ego that wants to be cool and succeed in the world and get all these like points of blah, blah, blah? Or do you actually want to learn how to love yourself 100%? And then from that place, make art, and then that will come out. It's really hard to say, like, what's psychedelic art and what's not psychedelic art. I've been, like, so high in ayahuasca where it's telling me, like, there's nothing that's not psychedelic because everything is spiritual. So a Bob Ross, painting of a lake and a mountain, that is psychedelic if it's coming from soul power, because soul power is the world of psychedelic, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we can make it more stereotypical and throw a bunch of eyes on everything and colors and rainbows and people meditating and then spill it out, and then you're a visionary artist. But, are you doing it to look like something you think you should be, or is it actually coming from an experience that you need to express? And do you dare break that formula and do something so opposite of it that could also come out as psychedelic, visionary, surreal? So yeah, anyways, that's up to the artist who's in that process. But for me, like, I'd like to be able to do some graffiti and still know that the spiritual me is expressing through that version of expression, and it's not like any less psychedelic or less spiritual. It's just a different flavor of the tree of expression of that human being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to, like, these... So I would imagine that, like, when you make art like this, you have to be in a certain mindset when you're starting the art, correct? Like, you have to have your creative juices flowing, right?
Yeah, I suppose. You gotta... Like, a good painting comes from, like, idea of, like, I got something to say, and those can hit you at any point. Like,
yeah, so that's my question. It's like, when you go to you go on a vacation to Hungary to do this mural, and you get there and, like, it's just not there today. Like, your creative juices, like, you're just, like, I know you're a professional, so it's obviously way different, but, like, when you have to paint and you're not, like, your creativity's not all there, like, how do you channel that creativity to make sure that you get a painting done? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
But not to me, because I don't get art blockages. I might have days where I don't feel like painting, but there's no lack of things I need to paint. If anything, I lack the time to paint everything I need to paint before it becomes obsolete. So there's ideas that come to me that are like, I need to paint this today, but I don't have the time. I gotta work. I gotta do this trip. I gotta do this mural. And then 3 months passed, and that idea died. And that was an idea that's dissolved into nothingness. And I'm like, oh, I didn't capture that butterfly before its time. And then the time passed, and I don't want to do that painting anymore. So that painting died before it was born. Okay. If that makes sense. So I have the opposite, where I'm like, I got too many butterflies to catch, but not enough time to catch them all. So sure, I'll go to Hungary and I'll do my mural, and they just want some trippy shit.
Yeah.
So I got, like,
plenty.
I got trippy shit for days for people who want a mural with, like, weird monsters and whatnot, because that's just something that pours out of me. Meanwhile, the canvas that I'm doing was a canvas about a superhero artist that was also like a giant paintbrush, and he's creating a force field around him where there's all these, like, sirens girls on the side, which were all like portraits of ex-girlfriends that I'm like trying to like shield off, not because they're bad people, but just because like I need to be alone now, no girls allowed. And on the other side there was like demons. It's like, okay, I know demons allowed now, I need to be pure right now. I'm just doing my art, I'm doing my service. And so that's the painting I'm doing. So in the painting I'm describing my process of being alone as an artist, and even like pushing girls aside, which at other points I'd be like, please somebody give me a girl so I can feel safe. But at that point it's like, no, actually I need to like push him away. So that's what I'm describing through canvas, while the mural I'm doing for Osora Festival is like, I'm not going to paint that for them. Like it's too personal. So I'll paint something more like trippy and crazy and you know, digestible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Not digestible. I think if I painted that in the city, people would be like, that's weird. But for Osora Festival, these are a bunch of like psytrance, LSD people. So
you said Azores, Azores, right?
Osora.
Azores. I think it's
O-R-A.
Okay.
Yeah, big psytrance festival in Hungary.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful country. Bucharest was dope. I found an illegal spot in not Bucharest, Budapest.
Okay.
Yeah, and no, it's fun. I paint these, I spray paint these fishes around the world. So I got this game with myself where I like to paint fishes in different countries. Sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's illegal, and just try to make them different all the time.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I was on a mission that night. But a local artist, I was just walking down the street, and these chicks are like, oh my God, Chris Dyer. It's like, oh shit, like you're just like normal Budapest.
That's crazy.
Like people, I was like, oh, my boyfriend, he's from the States. He was this, American, and they took me over to their place, and we went out for dinner. It's like, hey, can you help me find the walls? Like, oh, there's this rave happening here. There might be some walls by the train, and he held space for me, and it was cool. It's always an adventure, everything. God takes care that everything it stays shanty and good.
Nice. So you've mentioned God a few times throughout this interview, and when you say God, like, what does that mean? Because are you a Christian? Like, what does God mean to you?
God, wow, what a difficult question, right? Well, because God is everything, including this beer, and you, and the microphone, and everything else. It expresses as everything, but there's different levels of its consciousness. So say like in this particular physical realm, this is all personal beliefs. I'm not saying this is how it is and you must believe it. This is my personal way of observing it. But if we're in the planet Earth, means we're in the physical realm where like this can's made out of metal and I can drink it and I can take a pee and be sustained and all these different physical situations. And then as you go up into the astral, it expresses as maybe like deities, and maybe as you go up into higher realms, it becomes nothing and everything at the same time. And then the idea of personalizing any energy seems redundant because everything's just one. So I guess like love is, they say God is, like everybody can agree that the pure energy of God is love.
Yeah.
And it's expansive and it's in everything. But you can also, like, you can choose to personalize it. And I choose to personalize it not as a big dude on a cloud with a white beard. I try to imagine it's like Chris, who already got enlightened hundreds to thousands of years by now, and it's connected to that consciousness, which is collective, but it's, I don't know. How can we describe these things, man? Like, what is spirit?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's not a simple answer to it, but I'm always curious on everyone's interpretation of it, because I do agree that God is love and love is God, and what God is to you can be different person by person.
Yeah, totally. It's not like a religious, cultural thing, though I respect people's cultural, religious point of views of expressing things that are understandable. Like, I really enjoy how Hindus personalize energies. Shiva, he's the destroyer, but he's the creator. And then Kali comes and eats everything, and she destroys also. But then, like, Ganesha removes your obstacles. So these are just, like, personalized energies that turn into, like, anamorphic beings. And as a visual person, I love it. Because I'd be like, oh, wow, I can do a painting about this energy or about this vibe. And at the end of the day, everything's vibes, and we're materializing it into a ramp or into a human or a painting. but everything is just vibration. They say, doesn't quantum physics say that we're all just in emptiness right now, and maybe like 0.1% of that is vibration materialized into somethingness?
Yeah, it's funny
Something
because
like that.
you think like how important your problems are to you, and in the grand scheme of everything, it's just like none of it really matters all that much.
Right. Once you get outside of the bubble, it doesn't seem to matter. It's like, oh, it's just a video game and whatever happens. But we're
Yeah.
in it. It really matters. If somebody
To
comes
us, yeah.
and hits me, like if somebody came here and hit me in the junk with a hammer, it would be the fucking end of the world.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Because
It
that's
matters to you, yeah.
That's the parameters of the place. What a terrible example I brought up. Okay? That's the parameters of this place. So when I'm in Aya, and it takes me out of time and space, and I'm like, oh my God, that whole thing is so small. But then I come back in, it's like, oh yeah, but I respect the parameters, that I can't just jump off a building and everything will be okay. Like, I
Yeah.
respect this place, I respect its parameters, I respect that there's a tree above me, and earth below me, and the beer is cold or warm, and I shall not, insult or hurt people around me because it feels bad. Like, you recognize that there's, once again, parameters in this place, and you work with them to, I don't know, to make the most out of it, to be happy, or at least not to bring unhappiness to yourself or others.
Absolutely.
Try your best, at least, but...
So this is essentially a music podcast. I've kind of been spreading my wings with who I'm interviewing lately, but it is a music podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, like, who are your, like, musical inspirations today, and, like, what shows have you been to lately that, like, that really resonate with you?
Okay. Man, I'm a vinyl collector. I've been
Okay.
collecting vinyl since '99.
Shouts out Banana Records. Do you go there?
I've been to Banana Records.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Banana Records because they got their normal store, but then they got that whole second warehouse with the cheap stuff. And then there's other. You've gone to the other
Yeah.
warehouses.
It's like everything's $1 in there, or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, oh, dig if you want, baby. Like like 20-year-old Chris would have gone mad in there, like just like digging through all the stuff. I don't have the time for that anymore, so I'll go to that other one across the street on the second floor. They have already sifted through a lot, and it's still fairly cheap. And they got listening stations, so I love that. What music do I like? I'm a big prog rock dude.
Okay.
Yes, I like a lot of music. Reggae.
Like King Giz, Humphreys McGee.
Yeah. My girlfriend loves Humphreys. And
Okay.
Stuff. I'm very old school. My girlfriend loves cheese, for example.
Okay.
She's a big cheese head. Me, I like rock and roll. I love progressive rock. So Yes is my number one band if I had to give.
Okay.
Like Carlos Santana and his many decades and versions for that, and just endless prog rock, King Crimson and Genesis, and just like a lot of prog rock old school bands. New stuff, I really liked Lettuce when I found it.
Okay.
I was happy to do a poster for them for the Rage Rocks event, 2017, I believe. Last year, Dead & Co. asked me to do a couple of posters.
Yeah, so
for the Sphere.
that's what I wanted to talk about was the Dead & Co. Like,
Yeah?
for me, Grateful Dead is like the greatest rock band of all time. Like, I love the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
And the Dead & Co. is, it's not the Grateful Dead, but it's got, it's kind of the Grateful Dead. So, like, how...
Depends on who you're asking.
Yeah, well, I'm young enough where I never saw the Grateful Dead, so all you old guys can give me a break, all right?
When you start love John Mayer now.
So how did that work? Like, did Dead & Co. reach out to you and they're like, hey, we love your art, make a poster for us? Like, how does that work out when something like that happens?
Okay, so Dead & Co., the performers of a band will never hit me up unless we somehow meet, but that's a big stretch. Then they got their managers, and then they hire Live Nation, and Live Nation then hires Collections poster makers, and then Collection poster makers hires Chris Dyer because they know that Chris Dyer is kind of hippie and he'd do a good job.
Okay.
And then I did do the first job, and I did do a good job, and they liked it, so they asked me to do a second one. And hopefully they'll ask me to do more posters for this new Sphere section. But I've been hitting them up about my friend Jack Schur, who's another painter friend of mine in Colorado, and I've been hitting them up by email, be like, even if you don't hire me this season, hire my friend Jack Sure. He's a big deadhead. It would mean the world to him, and you'll be doing an amazing job. So, you can hire me for Red Hot Chili Peppers if you want.
That's her favorite band.
Nice. No, the collections, the people who do the posters, they do like Wu-Tang and like all these big bands. So I'm like, keep on these posters coming. Pays okay, but just the
exposure
pleasure of working with bands that you love, talking about music. The biggest, nicest thing I've ever done music-wise was to be invited to paint Bob Marley's mausoleum in Jamaica. So as a big lover of reggae and a big lover of Bob Marley, to be asked to go to Jamaica and paint the place where he grew up and then he's buried at, that was a big honor for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, the music correlations are all over the place. The place I was talking about, the painting in India, that was the Beatles ashram, so that's where the Beatles went back in the 60s, and I can give you some pictures if you want. Anyway, sorry, I'll let you make some questions because I'm going all over the place.
No, this is great. It makes my life so much easier. I know you're a podcast host too, so it makes your life easier when the guests can kind of run with it.
Sometimes I have some guests that just give me yes or no questions, and I gotta be like fast on my feet, like, okay, next question.
There are times when you can see here, I've only had a couple things crossed out because we've been doing such a good job of keeping things going.
Amazing.
But sometimes I do these interviews and have everything crossed out like 25 minutes in. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, those will just become the shorter podcasts.
Yep, exactly. That's what the Thursday podcast
are
for.
Interviewed on your show?
The most famous person was probably Andy Frasco.
Oh, wow.
So I did him. I did Sugar Leg from Daniel Donato. The Snozberries, they're a prog rock band. I've been really heavily focused on music in Asheville since I started, but I'm kind of picking up like some momentum, I guess you could say. So I'm starting to branch out to like comedians and artists and trying to get different things, but I'm still so early in it. So
I'd say St. Pete is more like reggae, but like I hate to call it white boy reggae. That's such a weird. Some people call it sunshine reggae.
Yeah.
But Soulja lives in St. Pete.
Okay. I didn't know that. He lives here?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Soulja, the band. But what about Mark Brownstein from the Disco Biscuits?
He's here?
No, but he'd be a great guest.
Yeah, he's coming to Asheville in June, and I'm going to try to set that one up. So, Mark, if you're listening somehow, we'll figure that out. But I have a friend who knows him who I'm going to ask about. But do you know Forrest?
He's very... I wouldn't say he's big on NFTs, but he's down with NFTs. He bought one of my NFTs.
Okay.
And through my community,
The Galactic Gang,
we've been put together to converse, and he agreed to do a Disco Biscuits poster for him too. And I like the Disco Biscuits. So once again, my lady Paulina Casati, who's also a great artist, she's really into more modern jam bands.
Okay.
And she will be at Halloween or something. Like, we gotta see Disco Biscuits, and then I get so exhausted because it's so much fast dancing.
Are you going to Halloween this year?
Probably.
Okay.
It's close by.
We'll see you there then.
Yeah. Totally.
More than likely. We just went to Tipper, like I was telling you, this weekend.
Tipper's cool. I'm down with Tipper. I live painted for him in 2016 at the Fillmore Free Night.
OJ Tipper fan.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. It had a free night, and the opening was Cut Chemist, who's like the DJ for Jurassic 5. And I was as a hip-hop fan, old school hip-hop fan, I was stoked to kick it with Cut Chemist, who eventually I interviewed for my own podcast.
Do you know his name on Instagram is Father Forrest?
Yeah?
Yeah, what's the thing the collective he does here in St. Pete?
I don't know. I've met him many times. I know his face, but I don't know specifically.
He does a lot of events at that warehouse in St. Pete. I can't think of it right now.
There's
but
a few hippie warehouse party situations.
Yeah, I'm interviewing him this week.
Okay, nice.
So that will be a fun one. And then who else are we interviewing here this week? Yeah, Dogs in a Pile. We're seeing them Friday at Janice, and I'm interviewing Joey, the drummer there too. So
Nice.
Yeah.
So cool.
But I know that you have an alter ego in the music world.
Oh shit.
Selector L Flyer, is that right?
Yeah. Wow. Good research.
Yeah, I always come prepared. I always come prepared with a couple. And tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was telling you, I collect vinyl,
Uh huh.
and yeah, in Montreal, I would say half of my friends are DJs, but they're vinyl DJs.
Okay.
You know, 2 turntables and a mixer, a microphone sometimes, and mostly reggae, but it's all over the place. So I would do house parties, and Nere shows up with a little lunchbox of 45s, and we'd all take turns to be the DJ. So I'll do a set with all my records right there, and then Barry would do a roots reggae with his gems, and then Pierre would do funk and soul, and then Danny Rebel would jump up and do some 90s raga. So whenever I play vinyl, it's mostly at my own house parties or art shows. I'll have an art show and be like, okay, I'm playing, and my friends, the embassy crew of Montreal. And here, you know, I'm trying to find opportunities to DJ, but it's rarely paid. It's mostly for fun. I'm not even good, but it's vinyl. You know, I had to go and find that record, you know, in person and buy it in order to have that song. So if you hear a song, you're like, ooh, he's got that record. That's how I geek out on my friends. I was just in Montreal in September for a book launch that I was doing, and I had all my homies come, and whenever I hear something, be like, damn, you got that on vinyl? Fuck, that sounds expensive right now, that song, because that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. The hunt of finding that really great song that gets your homies being like, damn, man, good job. You know, that there's something special more than like, oh, I went to, not to this Bandcamp or the internet, like, but you can go there and buy your YouTube iTunes song for $1 and then you got it. Like, anyone can do that. But to go to that record store in Baltimore, that's a hole in the wall, and there's stickers, records stacked to the wall, and you went through all of them, and you found that Manu Dibango Live 75, and you know, there's some weird shit out there, or something that no one's even heard. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, this is amazing. Oh, this is some, like, you know, disco mixed with funk from 77 from Africa, you know, like going to weird countries, what's a weird country, but like going to more exotic
unique countries,
or like going to India and finding a record store. It's like, what do you got? Give me some good Bollywood, you know, like, you know. So that you can do all over the world because it's such a technology that era is gone through. Or when I go to Peru, I'll go to the markets, and if there's records that are not damaged by fucking rain pouring on it all day, you know, get some good cumbias, and it's just, there's such a great reward to like play that song, and even if nobody notices at the party, I'm just like, hell yeah, I found that song. And if you actually mix it nice with the next song that might be a totally different genre, there's that like, hell yeah. And then there's all the other clashes when you fail. But yeah, I love playing vinyl. It's been over 10 years. I got a SoundCloud. Okay. It's just Posse Creation SoundCloud, and in there I got at least 8 to 9 different mixtapes, and it's all 2 hours.
I'll have to check those out.
2-3 hours of vinyl, you know, songs mixed with sound clips from music, from you know, real life, or shout outs or movies, and it's very thematic, you know. So if one song, it's like, I feel like I'm playing dominoes with myself musically. Maybe this song is CZ Top, and the next one is Yellow Man, which is reggae. But both songs are about getting paid on a Friday night and how excited you are about having your money to go out and party. That's the domino that knocks the next one. So the next song after Yellow Man would maybe be like some other reggae that has a different topic, and then the next song could be, I don't know, like, you know, electronic, but something unites them, you know, like, oh, maybe the song was about Istanbul.
Yeah.
So that's how I play my stuff. And I'll throw a little quote in the middle that relates to that, further telling the listener, I'm communicating this with you.
Okay.
And each year I have a different vibe. Like, if I was to condense the vibe of a year, what do I want to tell you this year? I'll find a bunch of songs about freedom. I find a lot of songs about moving away or breaking up with a girlfriend or whatever I'm going through that year. So that's how I find music to help me express myself, but in an interesting way that's like a collage of other people's expressions.
Okay. So, back to me doing my research. And some of my research, I saw that you do follow Billy Strings on Instagram.
Yeah.
Billy Strings is my favorite artist, probably part of the reason why I started this podcast. Have you seen Billy Strings live?
I have not.
Oh,
I don't think so. No, I have not.
Man, I wanted you to tell me about your experience. You got to see him live. You were just in Tampa like 2 weeks ago.
I was somewhere else. I think that's when I was in Albany
Okay.
painting. Yeah, like if it comes, it's so rare that I'll like stop my life and go and look at a band. It has to be like, like a Metallica because I never saw them as a kid, and there's a nostalgia. So I gotta go and see Metallica. But I even bought my ticket to Metallica for early June here in Tampa, and I can't go because I got hired by Pyro Festival in Ohio to go and perform. So I'll catch whoever's at Pyro.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is usually like Dirt Wire or
Is it the Secret Dreams one?
no, Secret Dreams is a little bit later in like July. Pyro's more hippie.
Okay.
It's more like, Racing Appalachia kind of vibe.
Okay.
Like more like spiritual. Mike Love plays at Pyro, and Tubby Love. Just like really like satsang, medicine music kind of vibes.
Cool.
Yeah. I wish I would have caught Billy Strings. I got, I got him on record. I like to enjoy it, but I haven't really caught him live yet.
Gotcha.
So it's amazing.
Well, Chris, man, this has been a blast. I appreciate you sitting down with me. I don't have any more questions today, but is there anything you want to plug before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm doing a retreat.
This is coming out on Monday.
Oh, wow. That's so fast.
Yeah.
You edit this?
Yeah, I edit it, and I do. I do all this stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have a retreat at the third week of May in Kauai.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 4 days. It's painting and spray painting in beautiful Kauai. My friend Judea, she's a psychic channeler. She's got a spot there that she just built, and she's having me do her first retreat with her. It's just going to be painting in nature, eating good food, going to waterfalls and beaches, and just having a good time with spiritual people as we make art, good or bad. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
We're just trying to like move energy through us because it's intense times for like planet Earth right now, especially these last couple of weeks. It just seems like the volume keeps on turning higher and higher and higher, and you're just like, I'm still here, I'm still keeping it, and man, getting punched down, but let's keep on going. We're gonna get somewhere real nice at some point. But it's nice to have community and people to like take this spiritual process further if you can, and I always feel art is a great way to ground that energy.
Okay. Well, hey, Chris, thanks so much, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me over, and more love to your viewers out there.
You just got jammed.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Mr. Chris Dyer. Cool ass dude. Really interesting to get just a different perspective on things outside of the music realm. Chloe and I just finished a great trip in Florida. We did quite a few interviews for you, some virtual ones too, and I really try to steer clear of the virtual interviews and try to do as many in person as I can, but I'm just one guy, and sometimes it's hard to do in-person interviews, so there's going to be a few virtual interviews coming up, and I do the process of editing them to make it as clear as possible, so I hope you guys can bear with me. Some really special guys coming on the virtual interviews, but still, this Thursday coming up, we have Joey from Dogs in a Pile, the drummer. He's going to be in person. Chloe and I got to interview him before their show Friday with St. Pete. So that's going to be another good one. And I think I've said this every month going into a new month since the podcast started. But I really do think May is going to be the biggest one yet. Some big names, some comedians, some more cool musicians, and we'll do a couple lot podcasts, a festival podcast. So I think May is going to be a really good month. And if you haven't yet, tell your friends about the podcast, man. Even if they don't listen, just tell them to follow me. Rate the podcast. It helps me in the algorithm. And 2 shows a week. I need as much help as I can get. So, you guys have a great week. And remember, wherever you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Have a drink with me. We can talk about the world and how the world is turned so slow. Oh, oh. Day and night I found cars they drive and planes they fly. I look into the sun and the sky, you're so bright. It's you that I have found. Oh, and I know it's not much longer now. Or if the world would just slow down. The moon and the stars, they sail across the sky, and I could watch you dance all through the night. When the rhythm is right. Oh, and I know the sun is rising now. Or if the world would just slow